to another episode, and the first episode of 2023 of the CHF Overtime Podcast. My name is Jordan DeLuciano, as always, and joining me now once again for the second time this year is the Commissioner of the Atlantic Coast Collegiate Hockey League, Andy Musto. And thank you for joining the podcast again.
Always.
So, first half of the season of 2022-2023 done and over with. What are your thoughts? How have you seen? What have you liked so far within the CHF as well as in your league?
Well, the CHF as a whole is really taking these leaps and bounds into making this a great organization. You can see from the ranking, the standings, and everything else that the games are going off great. I'm happy to talk about Liberty. I think Liberty is really performing well for us. They started off and then they racked off a little bit in a row. So we've got some stuff. Really for me, the second half of the season is really the true cream of the crop rise. And it's much tougher second half of the season. You're dealing with injuries, you're dealing with players leaving, new players coming in, that kind of thing. So for me, the second half of the season is really what teams are made of.
So it's one of the teams you mentioned there is the Liberty. Last year, should I say, made the Fed Cup kind of like a team that was ranked near the 20s, but now going into the second half of this year, they have creeped in and now are top 10 and representing your conference strong. What have you seen that has led to their turnaround to becoming a team that just gets in last year to now has been one of the forces here in the CHF?
Yeah, for me, Jordan, I don't put too much. I don't even know how to say it. Too much confidence into the ranking system yet. I still think the strength of schedule thing is way overblown. You have a team. You could have a team that's 4-12 and be ranked 11, and you have a team that's 15-5 that's ranked 18th. I think we need to put more weight on the wins and losses. I know for us, I believe the CHF is the different leagues are doing it, but we're allowing a team to go to the playoffs even if they win our league. To the CHF national tournament if they don't have a winning record, or at least be close to it. You're one game below 500. You play we might let it slide, but I believe the days of riding the coattails of teams can beat you but are good and that boosts you up in the rankings have got to be gone, because it doesn't look good. For me, I told my teams if you didn't have a winning record or extremely close to it, you're not going. So for me, have Liberty where they are, it's great. I just tell them keep winning. Just keep winning. Keep winning games. I put more strength on the wins and losses than I do on the strength of schedule. Because like I said, who's to say teams in the CAA are better than teams in the CHS? Who's to say? Because we don't play enough games in order to make that true. You're basing it on who they play every day. So you really don't have that lining up of teams to say, okay, this team is definitely better than this team. They played them 7 or 8 times. You don't know. A lot of unknowns in the ranking system. So as much as we have to use a ranking system, we must use a ranking system to get these things as close to being right as possible. One day, I just hope that the strength of schedule goes down a little bit, the wins and losses even more.
Yeah, because in terms of wins and losses, you have a Coastal Carolina that's 7-6, and then a High Point that's 7-3-1. But when you look at the rankings, you got to keep scrolling to find them. Then you see a team like who has 4 wins, but they're ranked 11th because the schedule came in so heavily in their favor.
Right. Well, exactly. And my whole thing is that if you don't allow teams into the playoffs on a losing record, that's going to force them to play quote lesser teams to get wins, which may drop them in the rankings, but it's going to give them their actual, real, true ranking. That's what I feel is going to happen eventually. You're going to see leagues start to say, hey, you can't go to the championships with a 5-15 record. You can't, because you got a team that's 15-3 that's sitting out.
Yeah.
And the regular fan isn't going to know about strength of schedule and what teams are good and what teams are bad. They're just going to look at a record. They're going to go, what? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that could be a cause for what happened last year. We saw so many teams get bounced out, and so many teams that were ranked so high. They had great. team that might have been 20th might have had a better record than the 12th ranked team, but things like the strength of schedule come to hand. And then that team that was ranked 20th moves on, and the team that was ranked 12th got bounced in the first 2 games. The third game was meaningless, and you run into that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't fault anybody in the CHF for that. This is just the ranking system that everybody uses. The ACHA uses one. We do. It has nothing to do with the CHF saying, we want the straight. It's the way it is. I just think the algorithm needs to be adjusted by the people who make these rankings to tune that down a little bit, put a little bit more weight on the wins and losses.
So now specifically back with your conference, a little bit of conference play. You've had Liberty, really just with the CHS going south. Liberty against Georgia Tech and Tennessee. High Point play Tennessee. Coastal Carolina, UCF, South Carolina, and Georgia. Is that just a little bit of things to come for the Atlantic Coast League where they're getting a taste of the South and they're about to branch, maybe games against Tampa, Florida Atlantic more next year?
Yeah, I love the interdivision play, the interleague play. I absolutely love it because then you're getting a true feeling for how good these teams are, and you're getting to really rate your teams against these other teams and see how they stack up. Then the rankings come out and they may be a little bit more eye-opening to you and say, okay, we are where we should be. I'd like to see it expand to the UNYCHL and the Empire next year. I'd like to get something together with those 2 leagues. Those are some of the best teams in the league, and I'd like to see how our guys stack up with them. But for this year, Liberty swept Georgia Tech, they swept Tennessee. Coastal was in it with South Carolina until the third period. In the other game, I think they lost by a goal. And High Point, which was one of our mediocre teams last year, has really stepped it up this year. But they have a young group, like 20 fresh are playing. So when they went into UT and lost that game, that wasn't a shocker. But for me, it shows them that they're even stepping up and trying to get up to that next level of play. And their High Point is really impressing me this year. They're they get into the Final Four and they make it to the tournament. They can do a little damage.
Yeah, High Point, I believe, had a player. I think it was Vetter was a player. I think of that's Nicholas College, or unless I was right. Player of the month coming out of High Point recently.
Yeah,
So you mentioned ways to expand the Atlantic's reach. You say you want to get involved and dabble with the upstate leagues and the Empire leagues. Did you keep an eye on that tournament that played in November?
And we were considering going to that. The trouble was that the invite came out after the teams had scheduled games already. We couldn't fit a slot. Yeah. But I started the Upstate New York League. I turned it over to John Marchese a few years ago, who's done a fantastic job. He's one of my best friends in the world. And we've been talking about we got to get our terms together somehow. And we're thinking about trying to do something, in DC or something next year, some kind of a mini weekend tournament, just to kind of give our guys exposure into their league and their league into our league kind of thing, where then they can go off and develop their own rivalries in their own, their own way. But we've kind of we're like the two parents making an introduction of our kids, and getting to be playmates for a while,
Yeah, so right now, a team that had a very good show, had the biggest upset of them all last year, Fed Cup, was Christopher Newport. They knock off Tampa in overtime. They lose in the next round. But come down season this year at a 4. They are currently 4-8. They lose some key names. They lose someone on the back end net. What happened with the captains this year?
Yeah, they lost a few players. They got some new players. Christopher Newport, for me, is an enigma this year because they're playing a different style, and I don't think it's coaching. I think it's players themselves are playing almost like when they start to get down and they start to lose control, and they take really bad penalties and they're getting thrown out of games, and that wasn't the Christopher Newport you saw last year. They were clean, they were hard hitting, they were tough on the forecheck, and this year they kind of just. I don't know whether it's a locker room thing or if it's a new player not buying into the system or not getting up to speed on the system yet. I really don't know with them, but they're a team that I had pegged earlier to be, one of the ones coming out of the south because we moved them from the north to the south this year to make room for our teams up north. And they really, I know the coach very well, and he's at kind of a loss as well. He's got basically, he's got a good core of guys from last year's team. He just, like me, can't understand what's going on with him.
It's just one of those years, those things.
It is. And it's the up and down of AAU.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those things just tend to happen. Something that was announced just recently on the ACC's Twitter account was the addition of Charles Southern now into Division III ranks within the CHF.
Yeah, Charles Southern reached out to me. They wanted to start a program. I told them that I would think it would be best to start off in our D3, which is kind of like the more relaxed, league. Still competitive. There's still good teams in there, Old Dominion and William and Mary. And, there's still good teams down there. But I thought they should come in so we can kind of decide what to do with them in the next couple of years. It was a really good conversation. Great group of guys down there. And they decided, they called me back that day and said, we want to join you. But that's the only teams that are coming into our league next year.
That's just the so far just the one.
Well, there's one, and then I can announce to you on the podcast that in our D2 CHF, which is the league I run, Stevenson and Loyola are coming next year.
Stevenson and Loyola.
Stevenson and Loyola. So we're going to have a real good North Division with Rowan, Stevenson, Loyola, Catholic, Maryland, and Navy. That's going to be a good division. It's going to be a tough division. And having Stevenson and Loyola, who just made the announcement last week to us that they were coming, is really, really, really going to push us to the next level up in the North. And it's going to be a true battle between the North and the South for those playoff spots.
Expansion, getting more teams means more competition. Guys step up their game. Like we talked about a team before, High Point came out of nowhere this year with a very respectable start this year, 7-3-1. And then it's only going to increase competition when they see more names and teams coming into the league within the division. So, yeah, you talked about the new teams coming in. I'll finish up. Anything else laid up in the future for the ACCHL?
No, Jordan, I'm not the kind of guy that goes out and looks for teams or poaches teams. I accept phone calls. I do things the right way. If a team calls me and says they want to leave their league and join, I first have to see if there's a fit for them. I then say, okay, we've got a fit, but you need to contact your commissioner, who then needs to call me, let me know that you talked to him, so that we can move forward. I did it with Catholic and the DVCHC last year. John Ross is a good friend of mine. And Catholic kind of said they might want to come over, and I called up John. I said, hey, I don't want to talk to anybody until I talk to you. And they were very appreciative of that fact, which keeps the lines of communication open all the time. So it's just a matter of waiting and seeing. Of who wants to come. The D2 ACCHL had some things going on, but I know my league with the addition of Stevenson and Loyola is great for us. It's just great for us, and for Charles Southern coming into the D3, it's going to be great next year.
Yeah. Actually, I was going to finish there, but you know what? The number one team in your conference right now, and the number 10 team, we talked about them a little bit in the beginning, is Liberty. That team, I believe, they have not lost. I think they've dropped the first 2 games of the season.
And they've won 11 in a row.
Yep. Yeah. So what did they get a trickle down of players? I know they got a bunch of hockey teams at Liberty. They got many different programs. It's a trickle down of talent that they picked up throughout their other teams. What is clicked right now for Liberty?
Liberty, it all starts with the coaching. Josh Graham is one of the nicest guys and best coaches I've ever met. He's got that team hyper focused. And I think last year they were a younger team, so they were kind of the aura of the lights of playing Liberty. Liberty's got a beautiful arena. We held our championship tournament last year. You've probably seen it. It's gorgeous, top of the line. But I think this year they've kind of shaken the cobwebs out a little bit and kind of focused on the deal at hand. And they don't want to just win our league, because they lost against Coastal last year in our championship game. They not only want to win our league, which they do badly, but they want to go to the national championships to make noise.
Yeah.
They're kind of a little quiet. They won a game or two here and there, but they want to really show that the ACC and their program is one of the top programs in the CHF. And I think looking at their schedule, they've got They've got a couple of games against Penn State University. They've got rematch against University of Delaware, who was one of their 2 losses at the beginning of the season. And then they've got Charleston, High Point, and App State, who are all in our league for their last 6 games. So they've got some very winnable games that, there. And the University of Delaware games are really, they're up in Delaware. I'd really like to try to get to one of them because that's going to be great hockey.
Yeah, that'll definitely be a fun one. Delaware's a couple spots behind them in the rankings right now, and as you mentioned, that was one of their only 2 losses this year. And what a crazy run! Drop first 2, win the next 11, and they're all
you gotta love AAU hockey, club hockey. You gotta love it.
So once again, joined by the commissioner of the ACCHL, the Atlantic Coast Hockey League, Andy Musto. Thank you, Andy, for joining the podcast. Go the rest of the way, and I'll see you down the line, probably at the Fed Cup.
Jordan, always a pleasure talking to you anytime, my friend.
So once again, joined by Andy Musto. My name is Jordan DeLuciano. CHF Overtime podcast will be back later today at 2 p.m., where we get the commissioner, the deputy commissioner of the CHF, as well as the commissioner of the NEIHC conference, Jay Turcotte, to join the show. Until then, I'll see you later.